Greetings, welcome to my channel, Ida the Intuitive. I'm Ida, and today I'm talking about Medusa. And so the folklore story of Medusa. And what I like about folklore and what I want to encourage other folks to consider about folklore is how it's kind of a splitting in between our 3D world and the 5D world. Commonly, I think people think of folklore as just like, oh, they're just stories, right? They're old stories. They really don't mean anything, just make believe. But I think that these stories have a lot of human realities in them and show things that we live through every day, situations that we hear about in our families, with our friends all the time, right? And the only thing that's otherworldly is the symbolism. And so I'm going to be talking about the symbolism of certain things regarding Medusa in a second. But it's the symbolism of things that are like impossible, we've never seen before, right? Like we've never seen anybody with actual snakes for hair, which is funny because someone could say, well, your hair looks like snakes right now. That is all symbolism, okay? Or like, I don't know, gargoyles and vampires and all these kind of things, right? It's like there is a symbolism to it, and the symbolism is otherworldly and very 5D, but the situation on its own is very much so 3D, common things we hear about all the time, right? So I just encourage you to consider that and to be open to folklore because it can teach us lessons about realities that we're living through every day. And honestly, how these stories kind of repeat themselves and happen over and over and over again. So Medusa, you know Medusa as the woman who can turn somebody to stone with the cold look of her eye, right? And has snakes for hair. So how did Medusa get like that? First, I'm going to talk about her kind of, I guess, how she was brought up. She is a part of the Gargons. There's a lot of Greek pronunciation, so I may not get the pronunciation particularly correct, just as a side note. But the Gorgons. So she was one of the three sisters of the Gorgons. But apparently Medusa was the only one that was mortal. So she was mortal, and then her other two sisters were monsters, basically, part monsters. And they were the daughters of Phorcys and Ceto. Okay? So that, I guess, were the parents of these three sisters, Medusa and her two other sisters. So she was mortal, and I feel like already that has a certain symbolism that she was all human. So there was something about her that was a little bit different than her family, different than, what she was already a part of. So as her life goes on, it's interesting to me also about folklore. It's like it doesn't always really tell somebody's whole story, but it really does seem like certain particular parts to give particular information, right? Like we don't really know that much about Medusa before she has this experience. So that's why I'm just going to skip up to. So she ends up having some sort of connection with Athena, right? The Greek goddess Athena, who is the goddess of wisdom and knowledge. That's what she is known to be. And apparently she's the only one of three virgin goddesses. So I guess that was a part of her, a part of her status, the beautiful virgin goddess Athena of wisdom and knowledge, right? So very wise, very knowing. And so Medusa works alongside her, and because Athena is a virgin, she forces Medusa to be a virgin as well when working alongside with her. So there's this requirement of like, when you're working with me, we are virgins, we don't participate in these particular things, right? So she agreed to do that and didn't take any, didn't take any offers or anything. Like, she was focused on working with Athena until she meets Poseidon. And Poseidon is, the kind of like the water god. Like, I'm trying to think of what is, it's kind of like that underwater pitchfork, right? With the three, like Neptune, how Neptune has that sign, the planet Neptune in astrology, it has the pitchfork kind of. I'm blanking on the actual name of that, but that's who she meets, the water god, Poseidon. And depending on who tells this story, some say that they just had this affair, where others say that he raped her. So in some situations, it's like they met, there was this hot attraction, and then that was how, the affair happened. In other cases, Poseidon raped Medusa, and then that was the story, right? And just a little side note, that's another thing that is really interesting about folklore, is how everyone is going to tell it differently every single time it's told. And because we can't really root back to exactly where it came from, and the otherworldliness of it makes it where you really don't know how to fully ground it into only the 3D, right? Like, we don't know exactly how to ground it, but it's going to be different every time. So it's like the things that stand out to me that I'm sharing with you will be different than how somebody else is going to share it. But there's kind of a magic there. And that's kind of why I like to focus on symbolism a lot anyways, because symbolism can teach you what you need to know in the moment, compared to like just everything that a story may have to share, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's a story, but then there's also the symbolism that can have a particular little message for you. But anyway, so Athena finds out about this, romantic or not so romantic affair that Poseidon and Medusa had, and she was very upset about that it was some kind of betrayal to her. Now, already I had questions, because I'm like, okay, so I have to do a little research. What is Athena and Poseidon's connection? I'm like, were they ever married, or had any sort of like god and goddess thing going on? There's really not even a lot of talk about marriage, right, either, that I have seen. Like, these are interesting stories, because I'm like, what? And so then I'm like, also, how's Athena a virgin, but then she's mad that Poseidon had an affair with Medusa? Was it a betrayal because Medusa said she would be a virgin and then she was not? Or like, how is it a betrayal? What is their connection? So I did look it up, and apparently Athena and Poseidon fought for Athens. Let me just relook at my notes here. A battle for Athens. So it was like, who is going to be some sort of leader of Athens? And so sometimes another thing that I notice is the battle in between man and woman, and how often there is sort of like a romance in between that, which is so fascinating to me. There's even that movie of I forget what it's called, but it's literally like the Greek, seemingly Greek times, and it's like the men are literally having to fight the women, and then in between that there's still kind of this like love, maybe not even love, but like a lusty connection type of thing happening. And so I just thought that was interesting. So I'm like, okay, maybe Athena felt betrayed, because it's like, I'm trying to like fight this man, or it's like this man tried to knock me off my throne, and then now you're working with me but trying to have some sort of this that with him, you know. So however, back to Medusa, because she's who we're talking about today. Athena gets so upset that she curses Medusa and makes her face this, turns her face into this stark face where whenever she looks into anybody's eyes, she can turn them into stone. And then she turns her hair into snakes, right? So it's like, now that's who she is. Now her beauty has been kind of stripped from her, and she's this monstrous woman like her sisters now, right? And so that's another symbolism of hair. So, and I did see this. I'm gonna put just some of the websites that I got some information from as well. So just that, so if you even want to read a little bit more, get a little bit more info, it'll be in the description box. But the significance of hair, and something about hair being a symbol of innocence, or of beauty as well, beauty and stature, but also innocence. And how if you cut your hair, it's kind of like a punishment to you, right? Like you will have your hair cut, for now you are a hoe, like that kind of energy. And even in these times, when you go through a traumatic experience, what do you often do? Cut your hair, like I can say that firsthand. I cut my hair after having a very traumatic experience. And so just without even, just it was spiritual guidance to me to cut it, and I hadn't even fully realized what had happened to me yet. So it's there's the hair is it has a strong significance, right, for femininity, and what that represents for us. So her hair turns to snakes, makes her look like this demonic thing, and now that's who she is. Now that's how everybody sees her, the evil woman to stay away from. But that is not who she originally was. So then, after that, there was a king, King Polycletes, who wanted to behead her because of what he knew she was capable of. She could turn anybody to stone, bada bow. So he asks Perseus to do his bidding for him. Go and behead this woman. And so eventually he does find her, beheads her, and she was already pregnant from Poseidon, right? The connection that they had. So she did get pregnant by Poseidon. When she was beheaded, apparently she had her 2 children born from her neck. And Pegasus and Chrysaor, were her children that were birthed from her neck when she was beheaded. So Pegasus, this is some more symbolism to me. Do you know that Pegasus is kind of like a centaur, right? And a centaur is the symbol of Sagittarius, the sign Sagittarius. And every time I think of Sagittarius, I think of the star card. So to me already, it's like the symbolism of hope being born from this disgusting situation where she basically gets, beheaded for being an innocent woman, and then, using her sexuality in a way that somebody else saw unfit. And so, King Polycletes was so happy that they completed their task to behead Medusa. And in his victory, he holds Medusa's head up, looks in the eyes of the beheaded Medusa, and then it turns into stone. So like even as she's dead, she can still turn somebody to stone. And I'm getting this energy of he's so like, just feeling so good of defeating this demon. And then he gets turned to stone by looking in the eyes of Medusa. And so that's kind of the story there. That's the story of Medusa. And so then there's also some other little tidbits that I've heard of her trying to like lock herself away in a cave after she was turned into this demon or had these powers, these dark powers, right? That she tried to kind of lock herself away and stay in a cave so that she couldn't do that to people or wouldn't do that to people. So already this story to me has a very victim blaming energy of like that's what they were doing to her, right? Like it was like we want to say that this person is somebody that they're not. There's so many questions for me as to why it was such this big problem that her and Poseidon had this connection. Why, it makes you kind of side-eye Athena, right? Why are you that upset? And like, does it threaten your throne to do so? You know what I mean? And, yes, so she didn't want to kill anybody. So that's why she lived in solitude. And then there's a part of the story that I just it's so gross, but that because she was hiding, the way that King Polykleites found her is like entering her home and beheading her in her home. Like they had to come and like scout her out because she wanted to just live in a way that she couldn't hurt anybody because of the curse that was put on her. And so those are the notes that I have. And so now it's like if we bring that into just our day-to-day that we know, how many times have you heard of somebody being this adulterous woman and then being broadcasted as such, right? Whether it be on the schoolyard, oh, I heard she has sex with hella dudes, or oh, I heard she this, that, or even on a wider scale. I mean, I can think of how many, even just like Monica Lewinsky came to mind of just like, and I don't know that story that well, but I do know that like it was something about some adulterous energy, right? That was broadcasted everywhere, of her being this adulterous woman or like all of that, and so it's like how why is it so easy to pinpoint a woman as adulterous? Like, why is it so easy to point the finger as you're an adulterer? You stole my man. You did this. You did that. And that everybody is happy to fall into that and believe that when, isn't it? Look, I like already said but isn't it important that it stays between the people that are in the relationship, right? That like those are the two that really need to figure out what their relationship means, and that it's not always the fault of the third party, and that often, the third party can be brought in for many different reasons. Like it doesn't always have to be of like, oh, it's just her fault because she was so seductive or so lustful that the man could not control himself. So it's the woman's fault that she's an adulterer and ruined these people's relationships. And so, I see that theme a lot. And people really can use the adulterer title as a way to literally destroy somebody's character, defame somebody's character, because it's just like, it's easy to say that because who would be able to tell? Oh yeah, I was in their room last night and I saw it happen. Not many, right? Not many can attest. So somebody who can go and just use that, it's kind of gross, and it can have real effects on people. And so that's kind of, now at the end of this video, I do want to spread it out and ask any of you watching this, how many of you, women in particular, but I feel like this can happen to men as well, how many of you have been labeled the adulterer and you did nothing of the sort? Like, how many of you have actually been through that? What was the story? How did it happen? Did you have no knowledge of it at all? And then it gets back to you spiritually? Did you know? Did this person actually like you? Because another thing that people will do is, a masculine will know that their partner will be so upset at a woman for being adulterous that he will lie because he doesn't like this woman, right? And then use that against the woman. So like, babe, I slept with this woman. I'm so sorry. I love you. She came on to me and I couldn't control myself. And so we slept together, but it's not even like that. She keeps on coming on to me. So now we have to do something, right? We have to do something. And so now then it's like, okay, yeah, we're going to do something together against this woman when the man lied. You know what I mean? Like, these are things that people do and create like literal soap operas over the shit. You know what I mean? Like living soap operas over the most BS ass things, claiming adultery. And that's something so common that we see in America as well, because that takes me back to the Scarlet, what am I saying? The Scarlet, I'm thinking of that movie Easy A, right? Salem witch trials, it makes me think of a little bit, but also just kind of like the harlot energy, you know what I mean? Of like labeling somebody, you're a witch. Back then, like, what was a witch back then? You know what I mean? Like, all these things come into question. And it's like, still we see these things repeated and repeated all the time. So I just think it's very, very interesting, and a reason why I like folklore. So was Medusa really just like a powerful scorned woman? You know what I mean? And when I say scorned, I guess I just mean put in a shitty situation and trying to find the best way to deal with it. Or, not even or, like, that's what I think. But yeah, let me know in the comments. If that's ever happened to you, where somebody accused you of being the adulterer, the third party, and you were not. And how did it affect your life? Did it change anything? Were you attacked? Were you, you get text messages, Insta DMs and stuff like that. What was your story? What is your story? And that is the folklore telling of Medusa. Yeah. Let me see. One more thing I did want to mention, that I am still fundraising for myself. I have a GoFundMe link that is in the description box, and there is all the information about why I'm fundraising and all of that with the link. So if you're interested and you're willing to offer some support, I'd be very thankful. Please take a look if you have the time. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. So take care. Hope this gave you some insight, something to think about. And until next time, take care. Bye.